many of you guys know, we got our first day of school canceled, which I'm sure nobody's complaining about. But how many of you guys know the real reason why school got canceled? And from those of you who know, how many of you guys even know exactly what the solar eclipse is? On Monday, August 21st, 2017, there will be a total solar eclipse right here in Idaho called the Great American Eclipse. An eclipse happens when the new moon moves between the sun and the earth, blocking out the sun's ray and casting a shadow on parts of the earth, according to timeanddate.com. Everyone should have a basic understanding of the solar eclipse since it is such a rare occasion. It's especially important that the people of Idaho have some knowledge about the solar eclipse because they're the ones who are going to be directly affected by this event on that date. Today I will inform you about some of the basic features of what a solar eclipse is. My name is Anthony Ricks, and I have done an extensive amount of research about this topic from many space and NASA websites. And tonight I will explain exactly what a solar eclipse is, and then I will describe the different types of solar eclipses. I first begin by defining what a solar eclipse is. A solar eclipse is when the sun's light is kept from being seen by the moon. The moon shadow isn't big enough to cover all of Earth. So due to this, the moon shadow can only be seen in certain areas on Earth. Eclipses are in different places because the moon and Earth are in continuous rotation. For a solar eclipse to happen, the sun, moon, and Earth must be in a near perfect linear alignment. The moon's orbital path around the Earth must meet the Earth's orbital path around the sun and be in a nearly perfect line. This alignment occurs less than 6 months apart, and it lasts on average about 34.5 days. Now that you've seen what a solar eclipse is, let's go into further detail about what are the different kinds of solar eclipses. There are 4 different types of eclipses. There's a partial solar eclipse, a lunar solar eclipse, total solar eclipse, and a hybrid solar eclipse. First, a partial solar eclipse is when the moon only partially covers the sun's disk. There are 3 paths of the partial solar eclipse. It starts by the partial path eclipse beginning, and the moon starts to move over the sun's disk. Next is the maximum eclipse. This is a time when the moon covers most of the sun's disk than any other moment. And lastly, the partial solar eclipse ends, and the moon stops covering the sun. The partial solar eclipses are the most common and occur more often than any of the other eclipses. According to timeanddate.com, about 35% of all solar eclipses are partial solar eclipses. In more places on Earth, you get to see this experience. More than any of the other eclipses. The next partial eclipse is projected to be on February 15, 2018. A lunar solar eclipse occurs when the moon's disk isn't big enough to cover the entire disk of the sun, but the sun's outer edges remain visible to form a ring of fire in the sky. We can see the outer edges of the sun because it happens while the moon is near the furthest point of the Earth, and to the people from Earth, the moon is smaller than the sun. There are 5 stages to the lunar solar eclipse. The first stage is the first contact. That's where a partial eclipse begins, and the moon's silhouettes start showing up in front of the sun's disk. This kind of makes it look like someone took a bite from the sun. The next is the second contact, and that's the full eclipse, which is often called the lunarity. And it starts, and then the rings of fire are then visible. There is then the maximum eclipse, meaning that the moon covers the center of the sun's disk. After that is the third contact. The lunarity ends, and the moon begins to move away from the sun's disk. And finally, there's the fourth contact, meaning that the moon stops covering the sun's disk completely, and the eclipse ends. A lunar solar eclipse can last for over 6 hours, but not in one location. In areas where the eclipse have been seen, they've been seen to have a duration that lasts over 3 hours. And when only the rings of fire is apparent, they can last from anywhere between less than a second to over 12 minutes. According to NASA, the next lunar solar eclipse will happen on December 26, 2019. Next, the total solar eclipse takes place when the moon completely covers the sun's disk. You are able to see this if you are in an area where the moon produces its darkest shadow, called the umbra of Earth. This eclipse isn't seen on as a total eclipse everywhere. It's seen as a partial eclipse actually in most areas. There are 5 stages to this total solar eclipse. Stage 1 is called first contact, and that's when the moon starts covering the sun's disk. Stage 2 is called the second contact, and that's where the moon completely covers the sun's disk. The next stage is the total and maximum eclipse, and this is kind of like the most exciting stage. And this is where the moon covers the sun's disk completely. The sky goes dark, temperatures can possibly drop, and all the animals usually become quiet. After that is the third contact, meaning that the moon starts to move away from the sun's disk and the sun begins to be visible again. And finally, the fourth stage is the fourth contact, and the moon moves completely away from the sun's disk and the eclipse ends. A total solar eclipse happens a little less than once a year, and a total solar eclipse can last for many hours. In areas where the total solar eclipse can be seen, though, it only can be seen for about maybe a few seconds to about 7 minutes. The longest solar eclipse in the 21st century is on July 22nd, 2009, and it lasted for 6 minutes and 39 seconds. The next total solar eclipse is on August 21st, 2017, the main reason why we got school canceled. Finally, there is the hybrid solar eclipse, which is also called a lunar total eclipse, which happens when the eclipse changes from a lunar to a total eclipse, and or vice versa. The Earth's curvature causes some sections of the eclipse route to go into the moon's darkest parts of the shadow, which causes a total solar eclipse, and the other parts of the eclipse to not quite be in that shadow, which is going to create a lunar solar eclipse. The distance between the moon and the Earth determines the patterns of the eclipse. If the moon's distance from Earth decreases, then the hybrid eclipse starts as a lunar solar eclipse and then changes to a total solar eclipse. If the moon's distance from the Earth increases, it starts as a total solar eclipse and then changes to a lunar solar eclipse. These types of eclipses are actually very rare. The moon and sun's distance from each other has to be perfect, and it actually only occurs about once every decade. Now that you understand these different types of solar eclipses, I hope these will provide you the ability to distinguish which are which and how rare each type is. In conclusion, I have covered the key items about solar eclipses. I have defined what a solar eclipse is and explained the 4 different types of solar eclipses. Now that you guys have a better understanding of the solar eclipse, I hope you guys will now be more excited and more encouraged to make the most out of your day and go see this wonderful and rare astronomical event on August 21st. Thank you.